Welcome to Kiss Me Son of Pod, a podcast where I read my newsletter where I'm writing about every song by They Might Be Giants. I'm your host, Chase Roper, and this is the third time I've attempted to record this episode. I have no new interesting things to share. I shared little random things before the episode starts, and I don't want to recreate them because that's not genuine. You can't, and they also weren't worth it. And so all I got is this can of liquid death in front of me, and it's fine. It's cherry obituary flavored, and I bought it at an overpriced market, and I'm kind of having an ethical dilemma over it because I was very thirsty. And I left my office and didn't want to go back in there and drink the free water. So instead I went into this market and I bought a can of water. So not only did I forego free water in favor of purchasing some water, but because it's in a can, I also paid sales tax on that water. So I think that the death in liquid death is referring to that of the death of the working class due to the commodification of a natural resource and then the subsequent taxation of that natural resource. Anyway, Liquid Death, not a sponsor of the show. We are currently in the self-titled Pink album. If you would like to join the current conversation, hop on over to kissmesonofblog.com, where I am currently writing, I want to think the newsletter, the publication is somewhere near the end of the Flood album at this point. But by the time you hear this episode, who knows where I'm at. But you can go there, it's free. There are some paid options available if you want to be a supporter. This podcast to the newsletter, they are all 100% reader and listener supported. So it would mean a lot if you enjoy this to chip in. I'll be your best friend. Or you can pay me to not be your best friend. Whichever way helps you support this thing you're enjoying. I'm on board with that. So we also want to thank, as always, Conquer Cuz for the intro and outro music of each episode at the top of this show. I'll probably just start saying this thank you at the end of the show. But, he does come in and set up everything wherever I'm at, do the intro and leave, and then come back 5 minutes later and do the outro. A lot of work. It's a lot of work. Just send me the digital file. Lord, please don't take me away. That's right. Today we're talking about Rabid Child. In the mid-90s, I saw They Might Be Giants live for the first time after being dropped off in front of the Moore Theater in Seattle, Washington, with my best friend. I stood in line with other people who also knew who this band was. That was unique. Were these my people? We were not yet old enough to drive, so probably not.
Lord, please don't take me away.
I have a very vivid memory of a sound check happening inside the theater. We heard the first couple bars of Rabid Child, and it was just this enthralling reminder. It was electric. We were about to see our favorite band. We heard them playing it through a wall into our ears for the first time, not from some medium that we were told. I'm trying to describe live. This song is also responsible for introducing me to 2 CB radio trucker terms. The first one is hammer down, which is to accelerate or to go full speed. And the second one is rabbit ears. And I actually learned when I wrote this post originally that this isn't even a common CB radio term. It might just be referring to someone who has their rabbit ears on, like they're listening in on the CB radio. So essentially it taught me one CB radio term, and it taught me one term that is not a CB radio term, which ultimately 99% of my vocabulary is consisting of non-CB radio terms. So these 2 words, according to this track, are the only words known by Rabid Child and her friends, Chess Piece Face and the Big Duluth. They call her every day. supposedly, all they say to each other are hammer down and rabbit ears? Are these the only words they know in English language, or are they merely the only trucker terms they've learned? Is there a song like Rabid Child in the Rabid Child verse from which they learned these two terms? I can't remember specific moments, but I do know that my best friend and I, we yelled hammer down and rabbit ears at each other nonsensically, and probably to his parents, and probably to mine, and to anybody around us, plenty of times. Well, how couldn't you? Hammer down, rabbit ears? As if we're having a conversation. And I think I'd hope that it gave the illusion that we knew what the other was trying to say by doing this. We didn't. We just did it to frustrate people. I think that sums up most of our childhood friendship was, what can we do to frustrate people? So, isolated and alone is the Rabid Child. A youth bored at home with access to a CB radio. And they're so into this CB trucker culture that they find themselves immersed in a world with friends from all sorts of demographics who share the same interest that they wouldn't have normally met. This reminds me very much of kids from my generation, where we were early adopters of internet chat rooms or bulletin boards online. So truckers would tip their high-seated forward slanting baseball caps and acknowledge that they all belong, even though in a different setting, the two may never strike a normal conversation at all. Which is also much like me and my friend David standing in line with college-age kids and older who have been fans of this band easily a decade before us. But once we all heard the Rabid Child soundcheck, we were all the same thing. We were the same group, fans of a niche band bonded together for this short time. Musically, this song has a driving drum beat and this haunting electric organ sound. And at the end, John Linnell belts out this final Rabid Child with such emotion behind it. It's really an incredible way to end a very brief, yet very nostalgic for me, rock song.
Pass the Rabid Child to hammer down for me. The Rabid Child, the Rabid Child, the Rabid Child.
I'm wondering who among you have used a CB radio since before the 90s. Is this something anyone's doing anymore? I've only seen them on TV shows or like movies from the 70s. So if you've got an experience with one of these, I would like to hear about it. I'll eventually do an episode where I share any kind of feedback or stories or whatever. It'll just be one episode for the lifetime of this whole series. I'll only do one. You'll never know when it's going to be. But shoot me an email. Send me a comment on something. Go find this post to the original article in the episode notes for whatever app you're listening to. Leave a comment there. There's already comments on it from way back when. And that's it. But I'll also say, should you pass the Rabid Child, give her a hammer down on my behalf. Thanks for listening to Kiss Me Son of Pod. We'll be back next week talking about whatever song is next in line. I refuse to open up my notes app and see what that was, but it's going to be a good one. And that's the episode. Thanks so much. Goodbye.